Still Untitled is supported by City Cards with Android Pay. Listening on your phone? Now you can pay while you listen, using the same device. Just tap and go. Download the Android Pay app on Google Play or visit city.com/AndroidPay to get started. Android Pay is available for eligible City consumer credit and debit cards.
Welcome to Still Untitled, the Adam Savage Project. I'm Adam.
I'm Norm.
And
I'm Rebecca.
Rebecca Watson.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good
So
morning.
nice to be back.
You are here as a fellow television addict today. Wow, I'm just stampeding right
Right
into
in.
it.
Yeah,
Let's not talk
jump
about
in.
the fact that you guys are all underdressed.
I know. God.
Norm, are you about to go whack somebody? Is your name Mr. Black?
I can
By the
neither
way,
confirm nor deny.
It is
Why do I gotta be
8
Mr.
a.m.
It
It is
is.
8
Yep.
a.m.
Hence the
you guys.
coffee.
And
8:30.
Close enough. Close enough.
You're not a morning person?
I woke up at 6:30 to get here.
Oh, geez.
All right.
It's a longer commute.
All right. And then I show up and this guy's in a suit? No.
Did
No.
not get the memo.
I wake up pretty much every morning at 6:30.
Why?
Well, it's just how it works.
What works?
That's how my body works. I go to bed at around 11:30. I wake up at 6:30. 7 hours of sleep, exactly what I need.
I feel the same way except for like 10 hours of sleep from, I'd say like 2 a.m. to noon.
This is one of the nicer things about getting older is the amount of sleep you need gets lesser, but I can't violate it. Like if I get 6 hours for, like when we were traveling to down under,
Yep.
I went for like 4 days in a row with less than 7 hours, and I start to get really twitchy.
But it doesn't matter where the 7 hours or how they're distributed.
No, napping works. Yeah, it works like a savings bank as far as I can tell.
It doesn't work. I can't nap. I'm not a napper. I just lay there and think about my life and how I'm gonna die one day. And then
That's actually meditation. You're performing what meditation actually is.
oh, I did become one with the universe at one point. Is that what that was?
Make me one with everything. No, just contemplating impermanence. That's plenty.
I find that waking up early or going to bed late, both are really appealing because both give you extra hours when other people are not awake.
Yes. I have a couple of friends. One is a magician who lives in Aspen, and he does most of his substantive work between like midnight and 3 in the morning. He writes a lot, and I'm always getting texts from him.
The emails don't come in. The drugs are just kicking in.
Richard Wiseman can take crazy power naps that he can like count himself down and in 10 seconds be asleep and then nap for exactly 10 minutes and then wake up. It's creepy.
I'm ready to sing an ABBA cover song right away.
Right. Well, he always is.
That's I love the 10-minute nap, and in fact, I love the coffee nap. Have you ever tried the coffee nap?
No, it's
You
a
drink coffee
nap.
and then take a nap?
Yeah.
I've done that.
So
What?
it actually turns out that there's this particular awesome quality that if you drink a cup of coffee and you're able to lie down and get real quiet, you can fall to sleep, and a 15-minute nap will be like 45-minute
Yep.
equivalent.
Really?
Yeah, the coffee, I can't remember the science.
It's like Inception. It's basically
Is
like
there
Inception.
science?
Like that 15 minutes is 45 minutes
as soon as
in
you
the
see
coffee
Ken
dream.
Watanabe, run
Right.
for your fucking life.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, no, a coffee nap. It's a lovely thing. So on the weekends, Mrs. Don't Try This, my wife and I will occasionally do that. We'll have a cup of coffee and fall right back to sleep for like half an hour. It's amazing.
It helps if you're really tired
Yeah.
also.
Okay. I find
Yeah.
that in general for sleeping.
But having the coffee and then the
Right.
coffee having almost no effect.
Right.
I don't know. It just works.
Weird.
I'm wearing a suit because I'm going to get my marriage license today.
Hooray.
That is, I'm going.
I thought
City
you wear
Hall.
a suit just because it makes you look good. Damn good.
I did not
That
know
too.
this. I miss out on a lot of the traditions of like things like marriages. You know, like I was once married. I did.
I
it
was
in
there. I
Vegas.
was there at
You were
the
the
wedding.
ring bearer. That's right.
Really?
Yeah.
The marriage didn't last, but the wedding was a lot of fun.
I particularly like because we barely knew each other when you
Yeah.
asked me to do it, and I was like, sure. And then the it was like a surprise for the audience. So they were
There
like,
was
let's
an
get
audience
married.
at my wedding.
Let's get married. And then someone was like, does anyone have a ring? And I was like, I've got a ring. And Rebecca went, it's television's Adam Savage.
Wow. So you really didn't want to make it about yourself at all.
No.
In fact, I also married my friends Don and I've performed about 20 weddings over the years.
You're ordained.
I am an ordained minister of the Universal Life Church.
Right.
Yes. I think I'm a bishop in the Universal Life
Nice.
Church. Yeah.
They give you a brochure that says, remember, it's not about you, it's about them.
Right. And that's actually the loveliest thing about performing a wedding is how much you are just like a focusing dish for the couple. When you're the celebrant, when you're the solemnizer. Is that a word?
Sure.
Yes.
Of the wedding. And my friends Don and Angel, he's an economist, and he has a very dark and hilarious sense of humor. And he wanted me to open the ceremony by going, "Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Don's family, Angel's family. You may recognize me from the television program Mythbusters." And I was like, "Don, I can't do this. I get that this is hilarious, but I just can't do it. It's not about me."
I've done 3 weddings
As the officiant.
and my record, I'm 2 for 3 in terms of the divorce
Successful.
rate. Yeah. What's yours? What's your record?
I'm not actually sure. I'm not in contact with some of the people that I married. It's probably 60-40. Didn't last.
Oh, okay. So
Wow.
you're under the average then.
But again, I'd have to go through the whole list. I
mean,
really
you
have
should.
married like 15 or 20 couples.
Because if you want to pitch your services to future couples,
Right.
you need to show a
Look,
history
if you think
of
your
success.
marriage is predicated on who's marrying you, you're already in trouble.
Look, I'm taking responsibility.
It's who you're marrying, not who's marrying you.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. I just saw some of my oldest friends, Stephen and Dagmar, a couple of weeks ago. And I've known Stevens for 25 years. And I was their officiant at their wedding down in Palo Alto. And we were down at that same house. It was a lovely sort of like coming home party. I saw a lot of people.
Yeah, that's sweet.
I haven't seen it.
In terms of public speaking, where does being the officiant rank in terms of pressure
This is
and
really
preparation?
cool. It's a great question. So, as a performer, like the whole thing that comedians have about like slaying the audience, the battle, it's true. There are some crowds in which you are winning them over, and it is an active campaign. There are other crowds like at Largo, the kind of comedy crowds that people like Maria Bamford and Paul F. Tompkins have cultivated where the audience is already kind of bought in. Jonathan Colton and Paul and Storm are great examples.
Right.
A wedding, there is nothing but love coming from the audience. They've bought the whole thing, hook,
Yep.
line, and sinker. They're ready to play,
Yeah.
and you are merely, like I said, a focusing dish. And so it is this lovely thing to stand there, and everyone's just like, the emotion is really high. It feels like a beam coming towards you. And when you turn to the couple and your words help focus this energy, and you see that what you're able to do as a performer, it's really lovely because it does take you way out of yourself. It's kind of like, it does take you way, way out of yourself in a lovely way.
It's one of my favorite things to do. I love doing it, and
It's like a motion vampire.
yes, like
Sucking it.
I go into it.
That is a
thinking.
pretty glass half empty way to define it.
I
But
go into it thinking I'm going to make all of you cry, and it's going to be amazing.
it helps if the mojito bar is open before the
Well, I was
ceremony.
going to say the only way you can screw it up is by going on too long, which is why Catholic
Right.
priests are generally terrible at this, because like people are sitting there, they're full of love, they want to celebrate the couple, but also they want to get to the open bar.
Perhaps a verse from Corinthians. It's appropriate here.
Yeah.
Ooh, you are so big. So absolutely huge.
For my brother got married last year on the beach. It was a beautiful wedding, and I was looking up like poetry that I might want to put into the ordeal. I don't know why that's the word that came to mind. It wasn't an ordeal, but I was looking at poetry, and I was specifically looking for things with ocean, beachy themes. And what I realized is that 90% of all poetry about the ocean is depressing as hell. Like it's all about death.
Well,
And
the
horrible
ocean is a
things.
portal to death. Of course it is.
Right. And so instead, I ended up quoting Sylvia Earle, the oceanographer who has spent the most amount of time under the ocean
Nice.
she spent like a full year under the ocean
She's an
in her
aquanaut.
time. Yes. And
Yeah.
she's this amazing explorer, and she has a lot of really awesome things to say about the ocean and the interconnectedness of life, and how the 97% of all of the world's life is in the ocean, and this is the only planet we know of with life. So maybe 97% of all life in the universe is in the ocean. That's why it's so important to protect them and to honor our oceans. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
I went with Sylvia Earle.
Well
I think
done.
I think it
Nice.
worked.
I used to go with that lovely Native American chant.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
There is no more loneliness for
No
you.
more loneliness, yeah.
And then also
Hakuna Matata.
No, that's a little younger generation.
Right.
That's not my the Sonnet 116, Shakespeare. Let me not to the
Yep.
marriage of true minds admit impediments, which has one of my favorite verses ever, which is, "Love is not time's fool, though rosy cheeks and lips within his bending sipple." Love is not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come.
Ooh,
Wow.
that's pretty sexual.
It's
And it's probably about a young boy.
you're thinking of John Donne.
Oh, okay. No, like a lot of Shakespeare's sonnets are probably written to a young boy.
You think so?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because John Donne is so one of my favorite John Donne poems is called A Valediction Forbidding Morning. And towards the end, he uses this metaphor of a compass, a compass for measuring distance.
Oh, yeah.
We are two so, as stiff twin compasses are two. Thy soul the fixed foot makes no show to move, but doth if the other do. And though it in the center sit, yet when the other far doth roam, it leans and hearkens after it, and grows erect as it comes home.
Subtle.
This is 15th century. Such wilt thou be to me, who like the other foot must obliquely run. Thy firmness makes my circle just, and makes me end where I begun.
That's impressive.
I believe that's 69 he's describing.
Wow. Wow. Well, speaking of young boys,
Okay.
I was waiting for
this.
Perfect,
Is the
perfect
not
segue.
safe for work
Yeah.
tested podcast. I'm
Yeah.
sorry about that. But look, I'm just quoting John Donne, who's a clergyman.
Right.
Right?
If you want to go even, I mean, we can stop this conversation, but I'm a big fan of Catullus in terms of filthy poetry. And I took AP Latin in high school, and there were only 7 of us in the class. So
Yeah,
we would just hang out and translate filthy Catullus poems where he would just go into great detail about his sexual exploits.
That
It
is
was
some
great.
that's some deep nerdery right
Yeah.
there. That's awesome.
but I repeat,
Sorry.
speaking of young boys in a non-sexual way,
Right. Sorry, you were trying to move things
I
along.
think he's trying to get to some Stranger Things.
Speaking of Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
I think this is a spoiler cast.
We promised a spoiler cast
okay.
on Stranger Things. Will is not here today. Rebecca is also a fan. Separately, like we compared notes. Have you watched? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let's not talk about it.
Right.
Come on the podcast. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So this is, I think we should say, because we already talked about in general how much we loved this show.
Yep.
So right now, if you don't want to hear spoilers, just stop watching because we're going to talk about Nancy crawling into the tree vagina and everything else.
That's right.
All right.
You got 12 minutes of podcast already.
Yeah.
Go watch a show.
Yeah.
Come back.
Are we safe now?
I
We're
think
safe.
we're safe.
We're safe.
R.I.P. Barb. R.I.P. Barb.
Barb, I found Barb's expendability to maybe be one of the most disturbing things about
Yes.
the show.
I
Was there
agree.
any chance that you thought like Barb was going to come back?
I did.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
actually
yeah.
convinced they weren't going to kill one of those two and that they get one back, but the cliffhanger would be that there's still another one.
Ah,
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, yeah, she's pretty dead.
Yeah.
I read a thing that was like, oh, the women in this are just as expendable as they were in the 80s. And I was like, actually, I mean, Nancy's pretty
Nancy
bold.
is not expendable.
She's not expendable, and she's pretty much of a central driver of the plot. And Winona Ryder's character is also pretty central and
Yep.
amazing. Kind of like Dee Wallace. Is it Dee Wallace who plays the mom in Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Oh, good question. I don't know
I
offhand.
think I'm wrong about that.
But she's clearly modeled on her. Yeah.
yeah.
And also the other mother,
Yes.
whose name I don't.
Oh, the neglectful mother?
yes.
Well,
The
but
one from
she's-
Mad Men?
But the thing
She
is,
plays the psychologist from Mad Men, but she also plays, I don't know if you ever saw the first Noah Baumbach film, Kicking and Screaming. She plays the
No.
townie that Chris Eichmann goes out on a date with, and she starts trying to talk shit to a guy in another car, and the guy has this bumper sticker on his car that says, "I'd rather be bow hunting," and Eichmann's trying to stop her, going, "Stop! He'd already rather be bow hunting." Anyway. Derail.
I did not think she was neglectful. I thought that she was subverting the trope of the neglectful mother because she was constantly trying to get her daughter to talk to her and to tell her
Oh,
what was going on. And it was the father who was
Yes,
actually a
yes,
giant
that's right,
piece
that's
of
right.
shit.
Yes.
And she was constantly like going around him to make sure
Yeah.
her kids knew that they were loved and being paid attention to.
Right.
And if one of the things that Stranger Things suffers from is, I think, the problem of if everybody was just honest with each other, there would be much fewer conflicts.
Communication.
Well,
Yeah.
and actually, to its credit, I think they got everyone on the same side around episode 4 is when all the information got to everybody about the thing crawling through the wall and that it's actually real.
Right.
And Julia my wife turned to me at one point during that episode and was like, this episode's really clunky expositionally.
Yeah.
And we watched it for another 10 minutes and I was like, it's because it looks to me like plot wise, they decided we got to get everyone on the same side by the end of this
Right.
episode. So whatever it takes.
Exactly.
Which is supposed to be a real moment of gratification when everyone stops downing each other, but then it is difficult to get everyone. Then it's early.
Yeah.
It's halfway through.
And
Yeah.
your thing about if everyone would just be honest with each other, there is a whole, my wife laughs at me because there's this whole subsection of sitcom plot, which is based on I'm not going to tell you about my
Right.
new nails if you don't tell me about your new shoes.
Exactly.
Like all the stress from that shit. I can't watch those plots. And
They're infuriating.
they're infuriating, and they go all the way back to I Love Lucy and the Flintstones
yeah.
and, up to Seinfeld and whatever.
But
Yeah.
it's honest in there. Like when the two kids, when the best friends, fight because they can't admit that they're jealous of Levin.
I thought
right?
the
Like,
relationship between the kids was really solid and it felt really honest to
It
me.
was
Yeah.
impressive. I said this. Sorry, I did another podcast about Stranger Things, so I feel like I've already said these things, but not on this one.
Are you
So
cheating on us?
I cheat. My friends Leah and Jessica host a Sunday morning program for BFF.FM called TV on the Radio.
Oh,
And Julia and
alright.
I did an appearance on their Stranger
that
Things
band.
podcast.
Nice.
But wait, what were we saying?
The friendship between the
Honesty.
kids.
Oh, the friendships between the kids was really lovely, and specifically, I thought the opening Dungeons and Dragons scenes, one of the most efficient bits of storytelling I have ever seen, was like, oh, your goal as a screenwriter is in 2.5 minutes show me everything that's good about being 12 and playing D&D. Go,
Yeah. Right.
And they really did.
They
and
nailed
then
it.
still use those elements to then tell the story. It's a
the
mirror.
overture.
It is. Yes.
Right.
It's the overture
Yes.
for the entire arc, and that's
And
magnificent.
also, it was the wrap up for it too. Like, here's what we just saw and what we might see in season 2.
Right.
There's a lot of fan theories about the strange flowers in the cave and the princess. That's what they mention at the end. They're playing D&D. He wraps up the campaign and they say, well, but what about these 3 things? And
Right.
so
Right.
it was the
Yeah.
stuck up princess or something, the strange flowers in the cave, and one other thing. And so everybody's trying to figure out what each of these things refers to and how they're going to,
that's great.
pay
Yeah.
off in season 2.
And not only are the relationships with the kids amazing, but the acting. I mean,
Yeah.
the pilot is astounding for being as cinema from a cinematography standpoint, acting, directing, writing, everything. It is as sophisticated as any Spielberg film from that era.
Well, was
It
the
feels
show
just as modern?
Yeah.
Feels just as.
was the show produced in that way? Because one of these shows are like bought as a season. Like they do all 8 episodes. They probably film once. Unlike shows where they need to film a pilot as a proof of concept. And maybe
This
they put
pilot
their
feels much more contiguous with the
Yeah.
other 8,
Yeah.
whereas
Yeah.
most pilots often feel a little clunky.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're usually cringy when you go back and watch just
because
the
then
pilot.
over the season, then the actors get
develop.
into the roles, but they don't have to shoot that way.
Yeah, I came across a funny word. I was surfing Reddit posts about terrible restaurant customers because I really enjoy that
Those
stuff.
are great stories. Was there one about you in there?
No,
Like, Adam
no.
Savage came in one day. You'll
I
never
am
believe
an
it.
excellent restaurant customer. No, there was this guy who was talking about how much his mother could make any circumstance cringeworthy, and he called her a cringe ninja, a cringer.
Oh, I like that.
Oh,
I like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
that belongs in the popular lexicon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the thing that I loved Nancy, the main older girl character.
Yeah.
I loved her boldness. There is that incredible episode pairing of the end of episode 5, I think in the beginning of episode 6, where she crawls into the upside down land. Again, we're
through
just
the tree
assuming
vagina.
you've watched the
Yep.
show at this
Yep.
point.
I screamed at that point, and I was actually really annoyed. It was like,
what are you
"Don't go in the
doing?"
tree vagina, Nancy. What are you
And
doing?"
then, the way
Get out
the
of that
tree
vagina.
closed,
Yeah.
the bark closed around her.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Terrifying.
But I think Nancy is another good example of she plays into some 80s stereotypes, but also subverts some of them, because when she's first introduced, she's introduced as the hot older sister who's too cool for her little brother's friends. Because if you'll recall, the one jokester kid tries to offer Dustin offers her some pizza, and like, so you think that what's coming is like he's got a crush on her and she doesn't even see him, but then he'll be heroic in the end and she'll recognize him, and it's that's not at all how things go down. She has her own arc that's happening, and it has nothing to do with them.
And also they do like she used to be cool, and so it's not out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like the rekindling of their bond.
Well, and I mean, of course, that's obviously what the whole thing is a metaphor for, is that coming into the age of being more of an adult, puberty, those changes that happen. Our main little male protagonist falling in love with 11, and feeling those feelings in himself and his friends seeing it. Every one of those beats I found was great. I thought in some of the kids' scenes there was just a little too much yelling. Like it almost got a little monotonous at a couple points. And all just, whoa, why not, Will? We gotta go.
A little too true to life, because I think that 11-year-olds do yell too much.
It's very plausible that you're totally right.
What did you guys think of the monster, the design of the monster, and how the moment at the end of season 2 where it's coming through the walls and that poltergeist moment? That was amazing.
That was amazing.
It got a little less effective once they showed the full monster.
Well, and then a friend of mine pointed out that they think that they were trying to be true to 80s movies in like the monster is scary as long as we're implying it, but we're going to show it to you and it's going to be a little lame.
Well,
Pedalhead.
I think they kind of had their cake and ate it too, in that, it is scarier when you don't see it. And so we had so many movies, Cloverfield-esque, where you never get that money shot and you go away feeling like slightly annoyed.
Slightly annoyed, yes.
Yeah. So, and it's you're gonna be annoyed one way or the other. Either the monster's not gonna live up to what you've built in your imagination, or you're gonna feel cheated. And I would prefer, like, we got it both ways. We got several episodes where it was creepy and on the edges of our vision, and then we did get those payoff shots later on,
which made it kind of lame. Apparently it was all practical, which I thought was great.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, the way the concept of the way they described it with no face, right, and no head, that was amazing, because then once they unveiled that it was like this flower petal face, I love that part. But then once they put it in real bad, like, stark lighting out in the open, then
it lost its terror. I thought the sound design of the sounds that it made was awesome.
Yeah.
And also, I thought it was great when 11 is reaching out to touch it in, that sort of stark black world. I thought that looked amazing. Like,
just a whole black world.
How about her standing watching the Russians speaking? I thought that was this beautiful. They're borrowing from so many things.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw Under the Skin with Scarlett Johansson.
No, I didn't.
Have you not seen it?
I've seen it.
It's really upsetting and weird in a unique way, because it's not gory, but it's a very disturbing film.
Yeah.
And there is this kind of other side in Under the Skin, and this sort of plays along the same plane. It's like an endless black plane, and you're kind of in water.
Well, the idea that it's sensory deprivation, and so it's visually to illustrate that she has no sense of the outside world, and it's just herself. Then something that's infringing on your that personal sense of self.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. Huh.
So the Duffer Brothers, the creators of this show and the director of several of the episodes, they are apparently twins, and they're identical. They think. But they've never been genetically tested as to whether or not they're identical. And they're so attached to being identical that they won't get genetically tested.
Because it'd be disappointing if they find out they're fraternal.
Precisely.
Yeah, the lesser of twins. Sorry.
It is. It absolutely is.
Let me point out that fraternal twins are passed maternally through a family's proclivity to double ovulate and create 2 eggs, thus 2 babies. So they're no more genetically similar than any siblings.
Yeah. Right.
And identical twins are always just a statistical anomaly. Every now and then an egg splits into 2 separate eggs, and that just happens. But that's the much rarer of the 2 kinds of twins. And twins are, in fact, 2% of births. That is the same number of births as redheads, for instance.
Oh, did not know that.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
I have twins. That's how come I know these twin facts.
Right, you're an encyclopedia
I
of
am
twin
an encyclopedia of twin knowledge, and that's most of it. You just heard.
I am a twin. I don't know anything about them.
You know?
No.
Yeah, there's a lot of twins in our peer group for some reason. It's weird.
2%, more
It's
than 2%.
weird. Yeah,
2% is a
higher
lot.
than 2%.
1 in 50.
Absolutely.
That's the same number of people who have permanent damage from lasing. I'm not sure that fact is actually
so many
correct.
facts, some of which might be true. Anyway,
Let's get back
monster.
on
Yes,
track.
Doctor Strange.
Monster-
I want to point out real quick that the monster design is in part like I like that they didn't just pull from. There's a lot of stuff that they're pulling from, and my first thought when seeing the monster was The Last of Us, a
Right, the
video
video
game.
game.
Oh, I never saw that.
Where the
I never played
monster. Spoiler alert.
They have like
they
blooming
have
faces.
Blooming faces, yeah, and it's really gross.
Well, and I think they showed their reference material by having the kids watch The Thing at
Right.
one point.
But I think that's the one where they don't actually get to the level of the thing.
No, they don't. But the idea of one body part splitting apart and being a mouth, they're literally showing the scene in which that's about to happen when he does the paddles, the electrified paddles. What are those called? Anyway, I'm old and I'm dying from the neck, from the head down.
yeah.
Oh my god, I can't believe I can't remember what that machine is
I was about
called.
to say EKG. That's
No,
not
I said
right.
I almost said the same thing. I know you're screaming at the podcast now, telling
we
us what
get
the name
it.
is.
We
I'm
can't
sorry.
hear you guys.
We can't hear you because of the time.
Just like
space
Nancy couldn't hear
continuum.
me when I screamed, "Don't climb in that tree,
Oh
vagina."
my god, I can't believe. So the upside down. Wait, let's talk about one of my favorite special effects, which is Matthew Modine's hair.
Oh god, yeah. He was like a Lego man.
He has a painting in the attic because he
Yeah.
looks fantastic.
Amazing. Yeah.
He was a movie star when I was a kid from movies like Birdie. And he looks amazing and he's terrifying in this.
so creepy. Immediately just oozes creepiness.
When he puts his hand over Eleven's hands, his hands are so much bigger, and like the way he cradles her, really, really creepy.
Yeah, and he doesn't have a huge physical presence. He's a slight man as far as men go, I guess. He's not like a hulking man, but he exudes that sort of presence when he's next to her, like this dominating force, which I just think is really well done.
And you get the sense that it's not just her that he can manipulate. When
Yeah.
one of his subordinates walks in upside down and he looks at him almost for approval.
Yeah.
Like you get that he has that kind of control over everyone.
And
Yeah.
they still left a whole, wholly unanswered what the upside down actually is. I have this interesting idea that that the show is positing that the idea of second sight, of being able to see things at a distance or temporally shifted, involves busting a hole through the space-time continuum, and that the
Right.
upside down is like this universe. I mean, that reveal when Barb wakes up in the upside down and you realize that she's in the pool, and then you have this greater understanding, is so terrifying.
Yeah.
It was an amazing reveal because you thought, oh, she's in some sort of organ, and then she climbs up and you realize she's in the kidney pool behind the house, but
Yeah.
clearly in some completely alternate universe.
That was so heartbreaking, especially because when they're cutting in pictures of Nancy getting it on, and it's like, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like many of us were at some point in that position in high school, not in an upside down world, pool about to be murdered by a monster.
That's what it felt like.
But yes, that's what it felt like when
This
your
is-
best friend is in the bedroom with her crush, and
Totally.
you're like
Oh my
out in the
God.
living room sipping your 40.
Or just being excluded.
Right.
you
No,
know,
Yeah.
totally.
being excluded from any activity.
Yes.
Right?
So-
Yeah, it was heartbreaking.
And in this, they're doing that. They're playing around with that trope that you always get punished for sex in horror movies.
Yes, yeah.
But they're also playing around with the empowerment exemplified by truly the most important entry into this genre, which is Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
Which equates the life and death feeling of the social dynamics of high school with actual life and death plotting.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's why it has such longevity.
And can we talk about how great the boyfriend was? What's his name? I'm sorry. I should have looked up everyone's names.
Steve?
Jonathan? Do you mean the
Wait,
towny
Jonathan or
boyfriend?
Steve?
Jean
Steve?
Ralphio.
Steve.
Okay. Do you guys not watch Parks and Recreation?
That's
No.
Danica said the same thing.
He looks
Show me a
exactly
picture. I'm
like
like,
Jean Ralphio.
he looks like James
Yeah.
McAvoy combined with.
Which one is he? Is he the
He's Steve.
With the hair.
He's Steve. Okay, with the hair.
Yeah.
You touched my hair.
I love that he came around.
Yes.
Yes,
You
and
know?
I was to say that Home Alone scene. when he comes back and it's the three
Oh,
of them,
and, like,
as opposed to just the two
That
of
was
them.
interesting. That was
Yeah.
And
I
that
thought
was the
yeah.
third time that the show dealt with. It was a recurring theme where someone, this "should I stay or should I go" theme, where someone goes out to the driveway of that house, gets in a car, pauses, and then gets out of the car and comes back in.
Oh
Right,
wow, I
right.
didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Hop does that.
the mother did it,
and-
Hop
and-
did it,
and-
and he did it, and that's
Yeah.
how like. So when he got in the car, I was like, "Oh, he's gonna come back!
Oh,
Yay!"
that's great. I didn't realize that's a nice little theme.
Yeah, yeah.
Were we
That
all
was
sad
cool.
that Lonnie didn't get eaten?
Which one's Lonnie? Oh,
Lonnie's the ex-husband.
I was waiting
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah,
Nah,
what a
he's
piece
too
of-
removed from the plot to end up getting chopped
He
up.
doesn't
serve
deserve-
no
He
purpose.
Yes.
I thought his only purpose was to come back so that he would get eaten.
right
Oh,
as
so-
cannon fodder.
Here's the other thing I really loved about the show. It's hilarious to hear Winona Ryder playing a mom of a teenage boy. By the way, she looks phenomenal for 44.
Absolutely.
And you know that voice of hers, I grew up with it, right?
Yeah.
I grew up with it in Heathers and Roxy Carmichael
Yep.
and Mermaids and everything. Girl Interrupted. And her acting is fantastic. She has to carry a lot of being the person who's sounding the alarm the earliest. The alarm sounds like it's crazy. She knows this, and repeatedly in the opening few episodes, she keeps on saying. She keeps on ending up going, I know this sounds
Yeah.
crazy. I
Yeah.
need you to trust me. And there's a way in which she brings a genuineness to that delivery each time it happens that drew me back into the character.
Yeah.
I think a lesser actress could have just gone histrionic continually.
It's the toughest role, I think, of any character
Yeah.
because it seems on the surface there's not much to work with. Just act like
It's just
hysteria.
like, yeah.
Yeah, and good choice of word.
Yeah, I know.
as
We're using the.
But I mean, it's true. It's like that's a trope: is the hysterical woman,
Right,
Yeah,
right.
because of her uterus,
We're talking about the etymology of the word hysteria, which is based on.
Yeah.
Yes.
and also is a dog whistle term a lot applied to women who's come across as being over the top, and so it was a nice. I thought it was a good part of that story where they're going against this sort of sexist understanding of like the mother who completely loses her shit,
Right.
You know,
And I love that bit when Hop, the sheriff, turns around on a conceptual level and turns back to her and says, "You were right all along."
Yeah.
That got me totally choked up. I was
God,
like,
and like the last episode where Hop is, doing the CPR,
So
Niagara Falls.
Explain the
I was
thing to me.
crying.
Did he give them up? Did he give up
Yeah.
11? He, like,
I think he did.
Like,
I'm not sure
intentionally?
he gave up 11. I feel like he gave up 11, but he made a deal with 11. That 11 was aware of what was going to happen on some. I don't know.
like,
I
is
felt
there a
like there was
scene?
more
there
to the arrangement than we knew.
right?
I
like-
think you're giving him too
Too much-
much of the benefit of the doubt. I think that he's a complicated character.
He's just going to
And
protect the people he knows.
And yeah, like he's never even met 11,
Right, yeah.
and all he knows is that,
but for someone who lost his daughter and then also they met her mother.
But they did meet her mother, but he is with the mother of the child that he's specifically trying to save and
Right,
has been trying to save this entire
Right, and
time.
they have a relationship.
And so in his head, like he gets to save one.
right.
It's
Yeah.
going to be.
I always knew they were going to save one. I just wished that Barb was saved for the next season.
So,
in
so you
terms
think
of
that
saving one, I meant between
11
11
and Will.
Oh,
and
right,
Will.
right, right.
So you think
Yeah.
of that last scene where he puts the waffles in the box is him like him paying his penance, like his showing respect, like he sacrificed her.
Well, no, I think that he does know that she's alive, and I do think that there's something else going on. But remember, he gets into that car, that black car.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
see,
he's working with them
Yeah.
in some capacity. I don't think he's completely bought into they're obviously the bad
program.
guys.
Yep.
But,
but I think
also
that
they have
he's-
something to learn from him because
Yes.
he went in and came back out, whereas none of their people did.
And
Right.
he has something to learn from them because the way he is, he probably does still want to save 11.
Yeah.
So if they tell him, like, look, okay, so this is what happened. We think she's still out there. So he's going to play along so that he can continue to get that information and come back and save 11.
And speaking of, I think the centerpiece of the show to me is the acting performance of the girl that plays 11.
Yes. Amazing.
She has, I can imagine as showrunners, you sit down with a show like this, you plot it out, you feel great about how the plot's going to go, and then you realize that a tremendous amount of the success of this show relies upon some tremendously subtle, difficult, complex acting from a girl who's 12 or 13 years old.
Yeah.
And she kills it.
Yeah, it's like you have 3 words of dialogue for the first, 3 episodes or something. You need to convey this range of emotions, and she just nailed it.
Yeah, she's British.
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank on her name. Holly May.
I can look it up.
Look it up. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting her name. There's a lot of facts in the world.
Yeah.
And I only know the useless
You only know the
ones.
stuff about twins.
Yeah, and the poems about little boys.
Yes. Hey.
That's all right.
We're probably going to get pushback on that. I should mention that all of my knowledge of Shakespeare comes from when I was a huge Shakespeare fanatic in high school. And so a lot of that has probably been debunked by now. Because, there's always all that, like, he's really De Vere and,
Right, yeah, and
BS.
Christopher Marlowe, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera.
That Roland Emmerich movie.
I can't get
What's going on there? Oh, you're trying to get the
on.
internet?
What do you guys think about the fact that they're going to do a season 2, and what are your hopes and fears for season 2? Because a lot of people say that they wish this would have been a self-contained and a perfect note, even though there's all this background material that the Duffer Brothers did write down about their thoughts about the Upside Down and the monster.
Jalopnik even did a long post about how perfectly correct all the cars in the show are, except for Barb's Cabriolet, which is a couple of years too new. But they pointed out that only serious fanatics would have recognized the bumper detail that signified it as an 86 as opposed to an 82.
Stranger Things is really hot right now. What's the car angle?
I think that they could take a page out of American Horror Stories book and
anthology.
potentially take you still towards the Upside Down, but in a completely different context. That way you'd understand some of the rules, but you'd be looking at completely different set of parameters of exploring those rules.
Yeah.
Same thing with like Fargo, where the rules of the world, and it has a tone, but it's not necessarily the same cast or crew. Maybe some intersections.
And they
Right.
were inspired a lot by True Detective, and I read an interview where they did consider doing a completely different thing each time. But yeah, with the waffle at the end, I feel like we're going to see these same characters continuing on. Which, yeah, I mean, it raises the stakes. They could ruin our childhood. And by our childhood, I mean
one season
last
ago.
month.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They could ruin the great summer of 2016.
Right.
The actress who plays Eleven's name is
I don't know why I can't get
advertisement.
internet.
What are you doing to me? 3, 2, 1. Hold on. Here we go. Her name is Millie Bobby Brown.
Yes.
A
Weird
great
name.
3 name.
Yeah.
Name.
Yeah.
And there's some wonderful YouTube videos of her singing. She has a lovely voice.
Does she?
She does.
Oh.
But her range of acting and the level of complexity that she has to carry is astounding. The ambivalence, the fear, the terror, the courage, the anger, all of that sometimes extant in a single scene.
Yeah.
Is really impressive.
And especially if you go back and watch it again, I watched it all the way through, and then my boyfriend watched it, and so I watched it with him. And so there, in those early episodes, you don't really know what's going on. You don't know where she's coming from. You don't really know what she's supposed to be feeling. And so when you go back and watch it, it's like, oh wow, yeah, she completely nailed everything. You see her whole history in her face. It's beautiful.
It's like watching The Sixth Sense again. Actually, Haley Osment's acting is far better when you know the surprise.
Yeah.
And you get to see the complexity he's weaving into his performance than when you don't know. I submit most movies with a big twist are better when you know the twist.
On the second
Fight Club
time.
is much better the second time.
I had a Sixth Sense moment this morning on my way here. I ordered an Uber, and I was standing exactly where I dropped the pin on a dead-end street, and the car turned in, and I gave a little wave, and she just kept driving all the way to the end of the street and just stopped. And I had to text her and you pass. It's 7:30 in the morning. I'm the only one on a dead end street, and I'm like, did I die?
I have a funny Sixth Sense story. So Deborah Nadoolman Landis, who was on my
your Sixth
panel.
Sense story is already better than mine.
Well, John
Didn't involve Uber.
Way to one up me, Adam.
No. Look, I'm here to tell you, you're not actually dead.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
the news is good.
Okay.
The prognosis is excellent.
But wouldn't it have been a better story if I was dead.
No.
I was dead the entire time.
I'm
Boom,
dead.
beat that story.
So John Landis was watching it with his wife, who's a costume designer, and she turns to him 25 minutes into the movie and says, "Why is Bruce Willis still wearing the same clothes?" And he went, "Oh!" Leave it to the costume
That's
designer to
impressive.
spot the tell.
yeah, nice.
All right. Well, I think that's a good place to end.
I think that is a good
Yeah.
place. I'm super excited about season 2 of Stranger
Yeah,
Things. I
me
have
too.
high hopes. It really did feel, even down to the typography of those amazing titles, which I watched
yeah.
in full every time.
Oh, yeah, every time.
Yes, it's the
Which is a
same
great rarity.
font as the Choose Your Own Adventure books, and
Oh.
the Duffer Brothers asked the opening titles designers they gave them 12 Stephen King books and they make it
Right.
evoke the Stephen King books.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just such an amazing love letter to 80s
Yeah.
cinema and all of those wonderful tropes. Can't wait.
Yep,
Norm,
can't
what's
wait.
going on Tested this week?
This week we have a new project from Sean Charlesworth. We're unveiling on Wednesday, so please keep a lookout for that. And then next we'll have another podcast, but we're going to try to gang record as many as we can because
We're all about to travel
yes,
for a
a
bit.
little
So there
bit
may
of
be a
traveling.
gap, but we might do some Skype podcasts.
Yeah.
That's
Ooh.
always possible.
Technology.
Yes. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
bye-bye.
Bye.